Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. So today on the program, second part of the show, computer and technology news, anytime allotted. We'll be covering all of the latest tech stories because, we spend all day doing this and we have a hard time keeping up. So we can't imagine, having a life and actually being able to do this. So everyone, we're going to have computer and technology news here in a little bit. But of course, the majority, and we actually do prefer it this way, the majority of our time is always dedicated to a great guest. And today joining us is going to be none other than an app. If you haven't heard of them, Moshi Twilight. Then this is going to be for those of you who have kids and for those of you who, maybe you babysit, and this is going to be a tool that you can always, kind of pull out of your pocket, or, you may just find some enjoyment in this yourself because there are some very, very cool stories narrated by many people you have heard of, and I'm looking forward to this interview. So joining us in just a moment will be, Moshi Twilight. But before we get started, computeramerica.com, that's something I really need to mention because it will have everything, including the show notes. It will have a link to our guest website, the app, anything that we talk about will be available at computeramerica.com. Be sure to check them out after the program. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get our guest on. And joining us, Moshi Twilight, and more specifically, Mr. Ian Chambers. And he is the CEO of the company. Really looking forward to having him on and explaining all about the app, what they do, and how they do it. So, Ian, welcome on to Computer America. How you doing?
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me. And it's great to be here. I've been listening to the podcasts from over here in London, and really looking forward to talking through what we're doing and maybe some other points around sort of my love of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. This is and really it's an area that I think technology really adopted itself to with kids, and for better or worse, like I've read all these stories and these articles about how technology and parents, they just kind of throw a tablet at their kid. Well, hopefully not too hard, and they throw a tablet at their kid or a phone at the kid, and they entertain themselves because kids take to technology like no one's business. They're very, very adept to it, or I should say, they're very, very adept to it, and it's like, I'm sure that the same articles and the same conversations were happening when television first came out, saying that it's going to corrupt our youth and it's going to be awful. Rock music came out and it's going to corrupt our youth and it's awful. The printing press came out and books are going to corrupt our youth and it's going to be awful. But I got to say that the plethora of apps and other material that's kind of focused at kids and the way it kind of helps them. We've had so many guests on the show that have shown that, time away from the screen is good, but productive time with a screen is very, very important for kids growing up in today's world. And I'm hoping that's where, our conversation with you is, going to kind of explore. So, but before we get into all that, I should actually ask for some background on Moshi Twilight. When was the company started? And yourself, when did you get involved? And of course, what's your background?
Sure. So, Moshi as a brand, as a kid's brand, and it's a world of 300 characters, incredible locations, launched around 10 years ago, and was first a PC online social world for kids, and went on to have like 100 million kids engage with this world, and they created a character, and they came in every day and played with the character and went on missions. And it was just incredibly successful, and that world has done so well. And so about 2 years ago, we were looking at other routes for Moshi. And I joined the company 4 years ago. And we've moved into a world of smartphones and tablets, of course, over the last 10 years or so. And at the same time, I've had 2 children and have been dealing with sort of the nightly routine of getting 2 young kids to bed. And we were looking at opportunities around how to use technology in a very positive way to help kids relax and sleep. And some of this came off the back of Michael Acton Smith, who's the founder of Mind Candy and the creator of Moshi, actually back in the day when he started it, who is now the co-CEO of Calm, the meditation and sleep app.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a tie-in with what Michael's doing at Calm, and from my point of view, having tried to get 2 kids to sleep successfully every night for the last 10 years or so, with my wife, of course, and I'm not saying I do it all for sure, because I'm sure she'll be listening at some point, and she'll have some things to say about that. But I wanted to try and create something very inspiring, which could help kids to get better sleep, because sleep is the master switch to our lives, and actually in this day and age, everyone at all age groups aren't sleeping enough.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to that. I have many friends that, and just in my personal life, professional life, sleep is one of those things that's seen as kind of expendable. Like, you can replace sleep for something more productive. You can replace sleep to get more work done. You can replace sleep to find your enjoyment hours that you can't, because maybe other hours are being used for other things in your life or responsibilities. I mean, you mentioned 2 kids. I'm sure that you found yourself low on sleep a number of times. And it's this idea that sleep is so replaceable that I fear that people may carry that over to their kids, where it's like, the kid doesn't want to go to bed, at night. So, I'll let him hang out with me for, an hour or 2, and he'll get, 6 hours of sleep, even though pediatricians recommend that kids get, 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night. And it's one of those things that, sleep is desperately undervalued. It really does seem like. And I guess with Moshi Twilight, this and you mentioned Calm, and we've had Calm on the show when we talked about Calm. It's a very and I've actually tried it myself. It's a very interesting approach to using technology, having these kind of modules, and kind of working through ideas that people may not have heard about, where it's all about turning your mind off. It's about expanding your mind. These kinds of things. Transferring that to kids, I can see where the Moshi brand would definitely help. Obviously, kids are going to be engaged with something a bit more. The characters and of course the stories and the world building that Moshi lends itself to. I guess my question is, and this may be a little bit of backtracking, but my question is, why did you find why did you find an app like this was needed for kids? Because with recent GDPR and things like that, I don't want to say not advertising to kids, but dealing with kids in a digital platform can be very tricky, because you have to be very careful about the kind of data that you collect, kind of what about your audience at that point. It's just not the most easy thing to do. So why did you decide that kids was a good way to take this?
Yes, it had some unique challenges. I mean, one thing is we don't collect any data on the kids themselves, and that's not our intention. And I think one of the key things here is that, creating worlds and experiences and apps and content and for kids, and looking at how you effectively create a business around that is incredibly difficult in this space now, because of of course the challenges, rightly so, around data, but also the plethora of content, right, and just the amount of content options available to kids.
Yeah.
But also the kids aren't the purchasers. You're always in this relationship with kids products and entertainment, where you have a purchaser, which is normally an adult, probably a parent, but or an older sibling or something, and then you've got the consumer, which is the kid. And so you have this kind of dual relationship, whereas most apps, you're talking to the person who's also going to be the consumer. So what we created with Moshi Twilight, and really the goal here was to create an app and a world and a service which ultimately is something for the family, and ultimately the consumer is the child. But really, what we've created here is our sleep stories, which help your kids sleep so that you can sleep and relax sooner as well. So the point being that if my kids sleep, I sleep. Right? If my kids sleep, I get downstairs or go into another room to spend some time with my spouse or my partner, or just to watch some Netflix or whatever, or I could go and start learning a new language or something. We found that something like, on average, 20 minutes are saved per user per night versus not using the app. And so, you add up 20 minutes every week, and you add it over a year, and suddenly you've got tens and tens of hours that you're saving over a year, and you can spend that doing something else. So we're thinking really as sort of the overall family benefits to this, beyond just the child sleeping more. And what I'll say about sleep is, and I've been there, right? I mean, I've got 2 kids now, but I was a student, and also in that early, I think 10, 15 years ago, or even recently in some companies, sleep is seen as kind of something for wimps, right? Which is, you need to be able to stay up and, stay out late and burn the candle at both ends, and that's how you maximize your productivity. But actually, sleep and getting good quality sleep, not just the length of sleep, but really good quality sleep, means that you're way more effective in your waking hours. And personally, I've seen the benefits of making sure I have a very high quality amount of sleep, so that when you are awake and you're active, then you ultimately you're much more efficient. So I think the benefits of sleep are pretty much well written about, and from our kids' point of view, they need to have high quality and longer sleep, and it affects everything from weight to education development to their mood, general health, to mood, all these things, right? And so, I think our goal here is to make families healthier and happier. It's just so that we started with, we want to work with kids because we've got this incredible IP. And what you said was, why kids? Well, we've got this IP that we know kids love, we know parents trust it, and ultimately no one else has done it yet, focused on kids, and we felt like it was a great place to use our IP and to try and do this.
Yeah, well, I think there's a reason for that. And by the way, one thing I wanted to tack on there was that the health benefits for sleep are well documented. You're right. But one area that I, kind of in my personal time, I really try to keep up to date on are the health, I guess, kind of negatives to not getting sleep. And those are still being defined because they're finding that, even like one all-nighter is going to affect you really at like a cellular level for months and months to come. Like, it's really, really bad to not get sleep. So I'm really happy to have you on the show and talking about this kind of topic, because it matters more than people think. And I really like this. Now, I did want to say that the reason that I think that a lot of companies don't want to take this approach is that, like you said, screen time for, Moshi Twilight, let's hope that you have a singular, let's say, sleep module. Let's say that, you have a story that lasts 20, 25, 30 minutes. And the end result, like the ideal goal, is that by the end of it, your consumer, like you said, even though you have this dual relationship with the parents and the kids, the end result is that screen time is over after those 25, 30 minutes. The kid is asleep, and, the phone, I guess kind of like the time spent in app engagement, whatever metrics that people use, those all go down. And that is the opposite of all other apps. Think of apps like YouTube. They want to keep you hooked. They want to keep you watching. That's the opposite for you. And I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, the first thing is the app is audio only, which is absolutely, we are big believers in. Firstly, let me just explain what is the app. I mean, the app is they're sleep stories. So these are completely original, 30-minute works of art, as far as I think, I think of them, because I think our chief creative behind them is creating the most incredible content, and they are audio only. And, we're big believers in reading to your kids, having, that personal engagement time with your kids. And so we're not trying to replace, reading books to your children. That's not what the app's about. The app is about when the lights go out, you don't want to sit there and hold your child's hand for half an hour. You don't want to constantly going back in and out of the room. You want to be able to, get on, and you want them to learn to actually go to sleep by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the sleep stories do is, for when the lights go out, it gives them something which is comforting, which engages their imaginative, dreamlike mind, and which slowly helps them drift off to sleep. But as you said there, the structure is incredibly important. And we worked with, and we continue to work with, several sleep experts who originally, when we went to them and said, "Hey, we're going to use an app to help kids to sleep," they put the phone down on us, because they were saying, "Well, what are you talking about?" But when they listened and they realised that, hey, this is audio only, and they can help us structure these stories to help take kids on a journey from being awake to being asleep. And the way we've done that is, these aren't stories with cadences or plot ends or sort of, chapter 2 coming tomorrow, or, this isn't Audible for kids, right?
Right.
These are stories which are journeys that start kids on a very imaginative, and sort of activate their imaginative brain and get them ready for a dreamlike state. And they become more and more soporific, until eventually they become white noise. And so this is a whole new class of content we've created. We've worked with sleep experts to really get the timing right. I mean, we've got, there's lots of little things going on with these. Like, one of them is called Mr. Snoodle's Twilight Train. Mm-hmm. And the train, the speed of the train over the tracks, the clickety-clack, 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 is the same speed as a average child's resting heart rate. And so we've got these little sort of I suppose, Easter eggs in some way, but also some very clever little sort of elements to the stories to help kids to relax into them and sleep.
Psychology, of course. Yeah.
And so, we work with multiple sleep experts to really get these right. And ultimately, we created these and started doing this a couple of years ago. We put out a few stories. We tried them on our kids, and we thought, hey, these work, and kids seem to respond really well to them. But of course, until you do these at scale and start to get some feedback, you really don't know whether it's working. But the good news is, for us, has been over the last couple of years, we've just had the most incredible feedback every day. I mean, we've had parents emailing me, pretty much every day, saying, you've transformed our family life. You've helped us with this problem we've had for years, where our child hasn't been going to sleep effectively, and now they're drifting off to sleep much faster, and we can now enjoy our evenings in a better way. So, the best feedback from us, of course, is from our customers.
So and we're going to talk about some of the feedback, and also how this helps with certain kids with behavioral problems or conditions like ADHD or autism or things like that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but let's get down to basics, and let's talk about the app in a couple of different ways. First one, age groups. Obviously, for a 6-month-old, maybe I see here that you have a couple of different settings, which we'll talk about exactly how the app works. But all the way up to question mark. I mean, what would you say is kind of the best age group or age group that you're hoping to attract with Moshi Twilight?
Sure. So the world of Moshi generally has been a world which appeals to kind of under 10s, and so they're sort of optimized for, I'd say, sort of 4 to 8, the stories, in terms of the language is deliberately not dumbed down. In other words, it's meant to be very engaging for
you
children,
don't break it down,
but we also want it to be we don't dumb it down to kind of like really kiddie language kind of stuff. We want to keep it something which the adults enjoy as well, and we believe that actually the best kids media actually doesn't actually treats children that way, and gets them to learn about these new words versus kind of making it super sort of simple for them. So generally to the 4 to 8, because they have a comprehension element, helps. But of course, the younger kids, the toddlers and the newborns, just love the music and the sounds, and it works really well for them as well. And then of course we get the We then get a vast range of older children who enjoy it because the content's so great. And then, of course, we get the parents who email us and say, hey, actually, I really enjoy listening to this myself as well, and I really get some benefit out of this. And personally, I do. I mean, they are just great bits of content, and they are incredibly relaxing. So, but yeah, the sort of core audience is really under 10.
But well said, and of course, I think some people kind of sometimes think that the under 10 kids audience is kind of like a cash grab in a lot of ways. Like, they have a story about a character and it spans 100 different iterations, and it's all the same. Character gets into trouble, trouble resolves, character's okay, and it's very simplistic. It's not interesting, but hey, for kids, it might be engaging to a certain point. I'm glad that and by the way, some of the characters here, or I should say some of the narrators and some of the people that you've worked with, kind of lend to that, because if you're watching the video portion, we have your website up, and you can see, of course, Patrick Stewart right there in cartoon form, and of course, I believe you worked with him on one of your stories, and I can only think of him as a consummate professional. So I'm sure that I don't see him dumbing it down. So let's talk about some of these stories. And I mentioned Patrick Stewart. You have many other, Goldie Hawn, Brian Bless. You have some great people that you worked with. Let's talk about the stories and how those work within the app, and also how was it making it with these people.
Yeah, so it's just incredible. And the starting point, really, I mean, for somebody who grew up with Star Trek Next Generation, having Patrick Stewart in the studio was quite incredible, as was Goldie Hawn, actually, being a fan of Overboard all those years ago. And so, why did we work these? I mean, there's a few reasons. I mean, firstly, they've just got incredible voices. I mean, who wouldn't want Patrick Stewart reading a bedtime story? It's just sort of, but then what you'll notice, and you mentioned, is we went way beyond with these in terms of just them reading. I mean, they do lots of voiceover work, I'm sure, but what we said to them is, hey, how do you actually want to enter our world? And we want to turn you into a moshling. We want to turn you into a character. We want that character to go on a journey, and we want you to narrate that journey. And that really brought it to life for us. And so we worked with Goldie Hawn first, and Goldie just did this incredible story about a mindful moshling who meets various characters and learns about various elements of well-being. And Goldie has her own foundation, which is focused on kids' mindfulness, called Mind Up, and so it was a natural extension for her to work with us and to voice a story with her character. And then Patrick Stewart and Brian Blessed, I mean, just two British sort of legends as far as we're concerned, who have appeared in a variety of different things. In Brian Blessed was in Star Wars, and obviously in lots of local sort of UK sort of Flash Gordon, obviously being a big one that some of your fans may be familiar with as well. And we were very pleased to get the line "Gordon's alive" into the story, which was fun. And Patrick Stewart clearly, got his new series coming out of Picard, but needs no introduction from X-Men and all the rest of it. So they were just incredible voices. But then, of course, we're not expecting the kids to know these. And you'll go, well, hold on a second. This isn't like, a kid's character or something that they'll know. And that's deliberate. We want to be invisible to the children, effectively. I get these questions about, oh, you could do these different things and kids could do this and do that. And that's not the idea of this app. We're not trying to make something that parents are going to be fighting with their children to hold.
Right.
What we're trying to do is give parents a tool which they can use to help get their kids to relax and sleep. To the kids, it doesn't matter to them that it's Patrick Stewart or Goldie Hawn. It's great. They learn about who those are and hear the voices. But in reality, this is there to appeal to the parents. And that's really the goal here, because this is something which the parents have to buy into, that they want to their kids to engage with when they're going to sleep, either together or by leaving them alone to listen to it without them in the room.
Right. And of course, there's a lot of ways to do that, which, on our day-to-day show we cover. I'm sure that anything from, let's say, a digital assistant to a baby monitor or some kind of Bluetooth Wi-Fi speaker, I'm sure that you, if you wanted to leave this with the kid but not actually leave your phone, know, to entice them to play with the phone instead of going to bed. There are many ways that you could do, you know, just the audio. So that makes perfect sense. Please set it for us.
So on that, let me just say on that. The main way is AirPlay, to be honest, you know, or the equivalent on Google. But using a Bluetooth speaker and, you know, being outside of the room, but you know, playing it over a Bluetooth speaker is probably the most common use case we see.
Yeah, and I completely understand that, because again, you don't want the kid to be enticed to get up, get the device, and, you know, have screen time, because that blue light, or, you know, in a lot of cases, just having that screen in front of the kid, very counterproductive to sleep time. So I did want you to kind of set up a scene. So let's say you have child A, you have them in bed, they're all tucked in, they're ready to go. Walk us through the app. You know, walk us through selecting a story or music. I see that you have things here like meditations and sounds. Walk us through the app and how people would generally use it.
Sure. So we release new content every week. So we've got a very prolific team creating the content, and there's really a few types of content. The main sort of content is the sleep stories themselves. So sleep stories are these 20 to 30 minute journeys which are designed specifically for falling asleep to. As I said, there's one a week. I think we've got over 65 of them now, or something like that. And they're with a different character each week, with a different theme. And we give I think we'll talk about the sort of model later, but I think there's a couple of bits of content that anyone can sort of play around with, and then the rest are locked behind the subscription. Mm-hmm. And then we had a lot of requests for music. So the music from some of the stories is then taken out and separated out as a music track on its own, which lots of our parents are asking for. And so, you know, but rather than it just being kind of music, you know, there are things like the Wobble-Aid Goopanova, the Flight of the Tiddlycopters, for those fans of Mozart, the Cosi fan Tutti Twit Twoo, the Dandelion Symphony, etc. So you try and make them fun in the world of Moshi. And then we have sounds, which are, you know, you're more equivalent to your kind of, you know, white noise kind of sounds you'd see, which a lot of parents of newborns and toddlers particularly like. And so again, they're in the world of Moshi. So you've got the waves of Lake Neon Soup, which is our lake in Moshi, the Lake of Neon Soup. Mm-hmm. The soothing winds of Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is one of our mountains in Moshi. Or the, what else have we got here? The Oobla Doobla drums, or the Gombola Gombola rain showers. So again, trying to make them so something that appeals to the child. And then, so they're the main elements of the sort of sleep content. And what we see some parents staying with their kids, about a third, roughly, we think, about a third of parents stay with their kids and enjoy these together while their child falls asleep. Mm-hmm. Over a third then play on a Bluetooth speaker, and then the other third may leave either use we're live on Alexa and Google Home. Right. They could use those, or they maybe leave a shared iPad in the room. And leave them playing that way. I mean, to be honest, we're focused on content. You know, we will just use the distribution methods that are available to us as the technology sort of in the bedroom and in the house changes, right? And so if Amazon Alexa becomes the number one way to distribute content, then we'll use Amazon Alexa. If it's something else, then we'll use something else. But, you know, our focus, we're a content creator. We're not focused on the hardware. And then we have a new section, which we launched up recently, which is called meditation, or meditate at the moment. And what we're trying to do here is create other forms of content to help with other moments of the day when kids and parents who are now buying into the Moshi world, they can actually have some other kinds of content to help kids take a moment to relax and to calm down if that's something they want to do. And so we get some great feedback around these, and we call them Moshi moments. Yeah. And so the idea being that they could be shorter Moshi moments, which are like 5-minute moments just to sort of reflect and to sit down with your child. And we find these work great with child and parents sitting together to take a bit of time out. And then all the way up to longer, sort of 20 to 30 minute kind of relaxation techniques which you can do with as a family.
You can definitely see the and I'm sorry to cut you off here, but you can definitely see the influence with something like Calm. I got to say that someone who kind of came into meditation and came into this idea of mindfulness later in life. Even if I never really practice it, I would have very much enjoyed at least being introduced to it at a younger age, because I think that would have helped me a lot. So very interesting that you're able to roll that into a children's app where, again, maybe your kid is not going to be a Zen Buddhist right away, but you're introducing them to these ideas of what it is that you're doing.
Well, that's the point, and we know that in the adult space, whether it's Calm or Headspace or all these other sort of big apps that are sort of bringing mindfulness to the mainstream. Well, clearly, if that's something that all of these kids who are going to grow into anyway, then of course let's introduce them to it early. And as I said, I think about this more as a family kind of thing, which is I've been doing this with my daughter, and to your point, I mean, they don't have probably such a strong grasp on what mindfulness is. And frankly, do we really want kids to be thinking about necessarily too much around this stuff when they're so young? That's not really the point. The point is it's content which they can enjoy. You can enjoy it together. It's very soothing, and it will introduce them to a life of mindfulness and well-being, which is what our goal is. But our primary sort of focus continues to be sleep, because there's 1 billion kids under 10 on this planet, and
is that all?
We all
that's a lot.
I know, it's still a lot, right? I mean, but there's a lot of kids out there, and we want them to sleep and to learn about good quality sleep. So that's really our focus.
Yeah. So getting back to the sleep part, and we have a question here that I wanted to ask, and it has to do with this idea that how do you determine if a sleep story is, I don't want to say good enough, because I'm sure that any professional that you bring into the studio and you record a story, they're going to be good. But I guess the question is, do you look for someone in the back of the studio who's kind of nodding off, and then you say, perfect, that's the story, print it, that's going to be, it's already putting us to sleep, it's going to be perfect. How do you determine if a story is good enough for, I guess, kind of a restful purpose as opposed to, a kind of a good story?
So I think the easy answer is our chief creative, Steve, who really is, and the composer he works with called Sanj, and they're just incredible at this, and they've really got the format and working it really, really well. But the main feedback, frankly, is we look at the data, and we look at the quantitative and qualitative data. We get feedback from parents, and the only way to really know if this stuff works is to try it on kids. And I say try in a positive way. Parents playing this content to their children, and they give us feedback. And we can see which ones work. To be honest, they all seem to work really well, but of course, there's always some which do particularly well. I think we passed 20,000 5-star reviews now. We're kind of like 4.7 out of 5 or something. And so, we listen to our consumers is the number one way. But really, the team who are creating this content, they're, I don't know if you're familiar with the BAFTAs over in the US, but the BAFTAs are similar to the Oscars in the US. But our team are BAFTA award-winning creatives, and they really, they've really got this sort of really got it down to a T, really, in terms of how to create these stories effectively.
Right, and since you brought up the reviews, and congratulations on just getting past 20,000. Reviews are one of those things that so many people they use the app, but then they don't actually leave a review unless one of two things happen. One, either it breaks, or two, they really, really love it. And that's why you get these, this idea that even well-known and popular apps don't even break, 1,000 reviews or 500 reviews, because it's just not, it's just not a thing. You use the app and you go on about your day. For 20,000 reviews, that means a lot of parents have kind of engaged with you, have said this is something really good. What do you think kind of attributes to that? Do you think it's because your app is different than trying to create the space of a sleep app or like a restful app for kids, or is it just because you think you do it very, very well and you're just that good?
So I think the first answer is it works. I think some parents are so surprised that they want to share the love and sort of tell other parents, which is fantastic. We get a lot of reviews, actually. I'm just actually flicking through the reviews right now on the App Store, just reading them myself. And anyone who's listening to this can do it. It's not me saying it; it's what you can see in front of your very eyes. But they tell their stories. I think it is one of those things as parents. I'm sure all the parents listening to this podcast will be nodding, going, "This is one of the really tough things about parenting." There's lots of things, right? But actually, this is something you do every day. It's a constant struggle, and we found something which is making a profound difference to families. And so, I'm just, every time I look at this, and I haven't scrolled through this for a few days, I'm scrolling through now, and it's like, it works. Highly recommended. Wow, brilliant idea. Most amazingly addictive. Moshi magic. Moshi sleep. And it just goes on and on. So I think the answer is it works. We're delighted with that, and I can't answer the reason of why people then come out and share their stories. One thing that I do know, and I think we're going on to it, is we also get a lot of feedback from parents of children who have some neurological diverse challenges, such as ADHD and autism, and it seems to be a particular area where we've seen sort of significant positive impacts on those children, where they.
Did you expect that?
We didn't really consider it, to be honest. No, I mean, I suppose I didn't really realize until we researched into this how significant or how many children there are who are dealing with these things. Particularly ADHD, and that seems like a very significant number of children. And so we didn't really think about it, but it's and I think one of the questions will be, well, why? And the answer to that is I'm not a clinician, so I want to be clear on that. And we're actually running medical trials at the moment with New York University and with NYU, because we want to really understand why from a more scientific point of view. Because the point is, we know from our parents and our community that it works, right? That it reduces the amount of time it takes to get to sleep. So we want to understand a bit more science around why. So we're going to do that. But if I'm taking the anecdotal evidence, so what parents tell us, they tell us that it calms their busy minds. And in many cases, I had one parent I remember who said, my child has not been to sleep before midnight since the day they were born. And that's now changed with Moshi Twilight, and obviously was very pleased with that. So we need to understand more about why, because I think if we understand that, then it's an area we can then go much deeper into, and we can look at hopefully how we can help even more children in this space.
Yeah, and of course I also not a scientist, but if I had to guess, it's because something like this would put someone like ADHD, it would put their mind kind of like on a track to sleep, as opposed to just letting them wander anywhere that their mind would take them, and it kind of gets them there faster and more precisely, I guess. And if you can say sleep is a precision sport, then there you go. But of course, I'm happy that you have that you have worked with NYU, because they're a very good institution and very interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that. I'm hoping that you put out a press release when that's all wrapped up. Let's talk about, we talked about, all the different celebrities and people with amazing voices. And obviously, this seems like something that I'm going to put out there. Maybe you just wanted to meet these people and you thought, this is going to be my best chance to, get Patrick Stewart in the studio with me. But let's pretend it's because that this is doing very, very well, and celebrities are the way to go. Any hints about who maybe might be next?
About new ones? We're talking to a lot of agents, so no one we've signed yet. So I can't give you any scoop, I'm afraid, on anyone who's coming up. But we're open to really so many different opportunities. I mean, ultimately for us, we want to work with celebrities that have global reach, because we are particularly big in the US, in the UK, in other English-speaking territories. The app is only in English for now, but that will change at some point in the future. And celebrities with incredible voice. And so we're talking to a lot of agents, and we want to continue working with the ones we've already worked with as well. So right. I'm afraid there's no scoop yet, but we will have some more soon.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there for you. LeVar Burton, if you're listening, please get in touch.
Yes, he did one in Calm, I believe. I'm pretty sure he's done one in Calm. So yeah, I think he's been on our list. I mean, the ultimate person I would love to have is The Rock.
Oh yeah, Dwayne Johnson. Why is that?
I think Dwayne Johnson. Well, I know he's done stuff around sleep. I think he's got his alarm clock or app or whatever it is. I remember him sort of focused on, but I just think as someone who would be fantastic, and sort of the person sitting on the end of my kid's bed reading a story, I can just imagine that would be fantastic. There's all kinds of people on our list, but we love the idea of getting Dwayne Johnson on.
I gotta say, as someone who grew up watching The Rock on wrestling every single week, I find it hilarious, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense because he has done movies for Disney, and obviously he's not unknown to the kid demographic, and everything you mentioned with sleep. I think he's going to be one of those amazing celebrities that if you can get him, he'd really put out something very, very special for you. So
that'd be really special. But the list goes on and on. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with David Attenborough, but I have to say, right? I mean, I don't know what travels and what doesn't, but I'm pretty sure that David Attenborough travels pretty internationally. But clearly, his voice is just exceptional as well, and. That would be such an honor if we could ever get someone like him. Or
hopefully, of course, you put him through a story and he's not narrating, crocodiles eating a gazelle or something like that. But I'm sure that you.
Well, no, I mean, this is an important point actually, which is the stories themselves. The themes of them. Well, clearly they need to be things which aren't going to keep children up, right? So one of the tricks here, as you said, is you're trying to make content and make a story which is actually going to send kids to sleep. Yeah. And so it's surprisingly difficult because you can't do that. You can't talk about food. You can't talk about some various other subjects. Yeah, because, I mean, if you have a trigger of food, right? I mean, if my child's listening to a story and suddenly it's about cake or something, well, that isn't really going to be very good to actually help them get to sleep. So we have to think carefully about what the themes are, and again, you don't want things which are going to scare kids, clearly, and so we don't have any themes like that. But look, our list of celebrities is about 150 long, right?
Very
and it's you can think who they are. There's just such a huge list that we want to work with, and there's just so many great people who could do some incredible things with this.
Oh, I'm sure. And of course, with that being said, a lot of content coming out from the future. It sounds like you have everyone from your musicians to your people contacting agents and things like that. And I have to kind of ask this: how do you kind of hope to see this grow? Because of course, adoption rate. Let's say that you have officially reached that 1 billion kids. How best do you kind of serve that audience? That growth aside, is it just the variety? Is it the library so that when people sign on, they can have a backlog that they can kind of work through? Is it engagement about building that community and maybe building that conversation about kids and sleep? Where are you hoping to take this? Moshi Twilight.
So I mean, I think sort of the sleep space first is so big. It's got a huge opportunity, and I think building the community around it is beyond just sort of the one-on-one interactions, but actually helping parents and children understand the importance of sleep. We're getting a lot of feedback from schools, particularly who are using our content at sort of calm down time, or depending what they call us in their schools. We think hospitals are a great opportunity, sort of scary place for kids, and we really like to sort of work with some hospitals and help them to bring an environment of calm relaxation to the children in hospital when they're having to deal with that. Travel's turning out to be really interesting because, of course, generally there's a lot of sleeping by kids when they're traveling, whether it's on a plane or in the backseat of a car or wherever. So there's all kinds of ways we can partner, I think, to take our content into all these different places where kids sleep. And then beyond sleep, there's all kinds of other opportunities for us in the future around kids' health and well-being. And I think, for now we're 100% focused on sleep and
Right.
and relaxation. But the world of Moshi for us now is an IP which is going to be synonymous with kids' health and well-being, and we want to create a world which parents can trust and kids can love, and we can hopefully give just an incredible value to the health and well-being of kids.
For some reason, and it's not really some reason because it's just M, and it's also I guess just something that came from overseas. I saw a lot of these late night ads, in the 90s and early 2000s for Muzzy, of course, the language building, and like you said, you're all in on the sleep thing, but hey, if you ever feel like doing a language app for kids, come back on the show, and we'd love to talk to you about that. Now, that's just my idea, and I will say that all this being said, let's get to something, one more, kind of little technical thing. iOS, Android, PC, where is this available? How much is it? You mentioned a subscription model. Give us, some of the basics.
Sure. So it's available on Apple, Google, Amazon App Stores. There's a 7-day free trial, so you can try out all the content for free for 7 days, and then you can purchase a subscription to access all that content on an ongoing basis. You can also buy directly through the website, which I think will be part of your show notes, but it's makebedtimeadream.com,
Yep.
makebedtimeadream.com, or just search Moshi Twilight, and you can buy direct from us as well if you prefer using that route. And yeah, that's it. It's pretty straightforward. And then it's available on Amazon Alexa and Google Home as well. So once you can also get some content through those on a sort of trial basis. I think there's 2 or 3 bits of content for free on both of those platforms. But the primary way is through the app and going onto the app stores and downloading.
And of course, and just like you said, there will be a link in the show notes. So thank you for throwing the website out there. Again, that was makebedtimeadream.com. There you go. Over at Computer America, we'll have it in the show notes. And I got to say that, you can see all the different features. Even though we just talked about, kind of the 3 celebrities with the stories, you do offer, over 100 completely original sleep stories, meditations, music tracks, and sounds. 40 of those are actually full-blown sleep stories. And of course, like you said, weekly content update that's going to continue for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in fact, I expect it to accelerate. I mean, we're definitely doing something every Wednesday. We release a new piece of content. I think we may even be past 50 or 60 sleep stories now and growing. So yeah, more content, more reach, and more features as well. So I mean, we've got one of the features we had a lot of requests for was a playlist feature. So you can now stack up if you want to sort of have a story then running into some music, for example. That seems to be quite popular. And then we've got some other features coming soon, and we're getting to a point now where the catalog is getting bigger and bigger, and so we're now starting to look at filtering of content and content recommendations and all the kind of things you'd see in sort of other sort of content catalogs.
Right, and just put it out there because I don't think we mentioned it yet. About $35 a year is what I'm reading on your website. So as far as apps go, very, very affordable. And hey, for the amount of good that I think that it can definitely do for your child, and the 7-day free trial is going to be a great way to kind of test the waters. But hey, like you said, just through your surveys and through your findings, and added 20-30 minutes a night that that parents can spend either on their own time or just not worrying about their kid not sleeping, that alone might be worth $35 a year for all that extra time. Sounds great. So obviously, I'm going to leave it to you, Ian. Is there any topics or areas that we kind of didn't cover or didn't touch on?
No, I think hopefully that gave a really good overview of the opportunity, of what we're doing, and just generally around this area, which I think is just incredibly important. And I would say, even to the parents or those who aren't parents yet, or try it out, listen to it. I mean, I think you'll enjoy the content. I mean, even if you just listen to the Patrick Stewart story and he slowly, gently sends you to sleep. I mean, it's just an incredible bit of content for anyone who knows likes Patrick Stewart. So I try that out.
Of course. And hey, once again, link in the show notes. And Ian, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, we've been talking to, of course, Moshi Twilight, and we've been talking to Mr. Ian Chambers. He is the CEO of the company. And of course, hey, this has been a lot of fun. I knew it was going to be. Like I said, this is an area that sleep, even by adults, is extremely undervalued. And I think a lot of that comes from, kind of kids and your parenting and your upbringing, where if you don't put an emphasis on sleep, it's not just time that you get your kids out of your hair, but it's actually building their brains. So it's super important. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for the time.
Our pleasure. Until next time, have a great one. Thank you so much. And see you later, Ian. Thank you so much. Bye.
See you around. Thank you.
All right, everyone, and there you go. So obviously, once again, make bedtime a dream. Makebedtimeadream.com, or you could, of course, just Google Moshi Twilight, Moshi Twilight, and it should pop right up. So with that being said, we have about another 10 minutes where we can fit computer and technology news. If you'd be so kind, let's go ahead and get started with that segment, and that's, of course, brought to you by Computer America. So here we go. So everyone, I think that our first story of the day that we're going to do, and there's a lot of different ones. I particularly like this one. I actually heard about this yesterday, but hey, no harm in bringing it up today. This has to do with the idea of surveillance and illegal surveillance. I know, going from children's bedtime stories and children's bedtime apps to illegal surveillance by authorities, or I should say legal surveillance, because they did have a court order. Very whiplash, but we're going to get through it, folks. Here we go. So this is a story from Ars Technica, and this has to do with something that the cops did. The cops put a GPS tracker on a man's car. We've heard this before. Generally, it's done legally, and you can think of things like stingrays, where it's a favored tool by law enforcement, just to kind of monitor suspects and see where they go, what they do, that kind of thing. Very invasive, but at the same time, hey, it's the way that our justice system works. Now, with that being said, though, check this one out. Cops, the gentleman whose car was tracked by the cops, he found this GPS tracker under his car, because I believe that's where they put it. They kind of put it on the chassis of the car underneath. And I guess this gentleman found it through routine maintenance, and he removed it. And the cops are now charging him with theft for removing, which almost seems really crazy, because, if he just kind of took it and chucked it and threw it away, and then the cops want to throw him in jail. Here's the problem. Do they have a leg to stand on legally? That's what's going to be decided, and we'll find this out. But they said that back in 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it's illegal for police to attach GPS tracking devices to someone's car without a warrant. That's what we were talking about with the stingrays. They were widely used, and then, of course, it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they found it ran afoul of the Fourth Amendment, which makes a lot of sense. But they noted without a warrant. If they can get one, then hey. So the article asked the question, this one from Ars Technica, what if you find a GPS tracking device on your car? Are you allowed to remove it? Which you would think, my property, my right. But hey, this is what we're talking about now. So a little more than a year ago, the state of Indiana charged a suspected drug dealer with theft for removing a government-owned GPS tracking device from his SUV. This month, the state Supreme Court began considering the case, and some justices seemed skeptical of the government's argument, saying, "I'm really struggling with how that is theft," and that is what Justice Stephen David said during a recent oral argument. And I think this is going to be the big thing. So obviously this is working its way through the courts. How this lands is going to have very big implications and will probably be challenged all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But check this out. So here's what happened to the case. Saying that it began in July 2018. An officer got a warrant. So he did get a warrant. This was not warrantless. He did get a warrant to attach a GPS tracking device to Derek Huring's car. And information from a confidential informant had led them to believe that he was using the vehicle to sell meth. Not good. Don't sell meth. I can't believe I have to say that. The GPS device transmitted data for a little more than a week, then it stopped. Officers suspected that he had discovered and removed it. After waiting another 10 days to see if it would start working again, detectives applied for a warrant to search his home. U.S. law requires law enforcement to show probable cause that a crime had been committed before engaging in a search. In this case, police said that they suspected that he had stolen the GPS device, which is very tenuous with my very tenuous grasp of law, but there you go. So police did find the tracking device. They also found methamphetamine and drug paraphernalia, evidence that police say show that he had been dealing drugs. Don't get me wrong. So he's a drug dealer. That doesn't mean he has to forego his basic rights that he has in this country. I'm not defending the meth part. The meth part, very bad. Very, very bad. I hope he goes to prison for that. Don't sell methamphetamine. But check this one out. To search his property because he had quote unquote stolen a device that they put on his property seems like a horrible precedent to set. So the legal team argued that the search had been illegal because the police didn't have probable cause to believe their client had committed thefts. The defense pointed out that the device had fallen off the car by accident or simply malfunctioned. Even if Huring did take the device off the vehicle, he could not have known for sure if it belonged to the government. It wasn't exactly labeled as the property of Warwick County Sheriff's Office, and most important, it's not clear that taking an unwanted device off your car is theft, even if you know who it belongs to. So I think that's the thing, is that it was not clearly marked. This was not, property of the sheriff's office or property of the United States government. It was not marked with anything like that. It was probably marked with some kind of manufacturing label saying that it was a tracker, here's the model number, things like that. But it had no markings indicating that it was from the government. And if it's on your property, i.e. on, hey, in the place that you live, in the car that you own, and you remove it, how is that theft when you're removing it from your property? And of course, if it's found on your property, hey, it's hard to imagine. That's like someone saying, "Oh, he stole my coffee cup," after you set his coffee cup in his car, and then you search his house because your coffee cup went missing out of his car. Very, very strange. So they said that with the case now in the state Supreme Court, the stakes are high. If he can show that the police lacked probable cause to search his house, he could get all the evidence gathered in the search thrown out. Not only evidence of the GPS device theft, but evidence of the drug dealing too. Still a drug dealer. Hard to gain sympathy for that. But an appellate court ruled that leading the case reaching the an appellate court ruled against Huring. So, of course, they appealed it again, and multiple justices seemed skeptical of the idea that taking a tracking device off your own car amounted to theft. And they have, and actually the direct quote was, "If somebody wants to find me to do harm to me and it's not the police and they put a tracking device on my car and I find a tracking device and I dispose of it after stomping on it 25 times, I would hope that they would not be able to to go to the local prosecutor, and somehow I'm getting charges filed against me for destroying someone else's property." Makes sense. And that was from one of the justices on the state Supreme Court. So a lawyer for the government acknowledged that it wouldn't be theft to remove a tracking device put there by a private party, but he argued things are different when the government has a warrant to use the tracking device. And by removing it and preventing tracking, he deprived the government of the use of its property. So with that being said, they are hoping to consider more and more oral arguments as this kind of works its way through, but I found that very interesting. And yeah, I'm so at a loss for what that is actually going to lead to. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are just flat out of time. There you go. I had to start the music. So everyone, I have like 30 minutes left. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to check out more of Computer America, I highly recommend you check out computeramerica.com. We should have some new reviews out today. If not today, then tomorrow. But I'm really, really, really going to be working to get them out today. Everyone, Moshi Twilight, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. For everyone out there listening to Computer America on the radio, on the podcast, on the video portion, we thank you so much. We love you, and but we love you as a friend. You know, don't want to get too intimate. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much. We'll catch you then. Bye, everyone.